Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. Monday night, 8 p.m. The Online Darts Live Lounge returns. Myself, Phil Bars, Jack Garwood by the skin of his teeth, and Dan Simpson. I had it all prepped up for a two-people start because God was cutting it fine, but he made it in the end. Gentlemen, how are we?
Don't know what you mean, mate. I've been here all night.
I'm absolutely bloody marvellous. Thank you very much for asking. I had a tremendous weekend. Yesterday was magnificent. Everything was going absolutely swimmingly, to be honest, across the board, until about 5 minutes before we got on this stream. And in my anticipation to horse down my delicious meal before we got started, I've managed to burn the entire roof of my mouth. So I'm struggling a bit now. But, yeah, what a weekend. What a day yesterday. I haven't seen a great deal of darts because I was completely and utterly consumed by Newcastle's trip to Wembley. You all right, Tom?
Yeah, great. You enjoy your memory, mate. Statistically, it's never going to happen again in your lifetime. Or your kids, or your grandkids at this fucking rate.
I was going to say, I think, like, judging by the lifestyle I often adopt for myself, like, it's not really extending that period very much. My life cycle is not one to base one on. That's how I feel. Like, so Anthony's been all you can eat Chinese. I have cocked up massively. As I got on before the show started talking to Phil, I was like shoveling food into my face, and I've eaten so much, and there was too much chili in it, and I've burnt the roof of my mouth, and now I feel like I've done myself a bit of a wrong and with shoveling that in.
But are you from Blythe?
I went to Blythe today. I went to Blythe as a sort of pilgrimage. I did need to go there for work reasons. Oh man, honestly, like there's so many. I don't want it to become a football pod. A little bit. We could talk for 2 hours about Newcastle United, but I like for those in the WhatsApp groups know that I've committed lots of time and been ridiculed summarily for standing by Dan Burn and talking about how good he is, how important it is, and how he should be an England player. So I'm very pleased for him to get that achievement yesterday.
Yeah, but the problem with your ode to Dan Burn constantly is we can't tell if it's serious or if it's along the lines of, well, he's from the North East, so I'm going to have to back him, a la Chris Dobie in the Premier League.
I think in recent weeks I've been fairly honest about Bristow. Like, I have, but it's not the honesty of a man that finally wants it. Just someone who's banged to rights and hasn't really got. He's backed me into a corner where I can't really keep up the charade, can I?
Look, again, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, as well. Our chat room is it's just absolutely rammed. Dell is in. Owen, how we doing? Malak, I've seen you before somewhere today. James K-Day, Shelty, how we doing? The Great Showman, evening. Hog, Warren is in. Nicholas, Rob, how do? Adam is in. Ad, Dean, Rob, I tell you what, Jonas, it's manic. Hi, Phil, I'm back. How we doing? Kev, Cameron, Lendl, how do? Kate says evening. Paddy is in. Wayne, Anthony, you've sent me the picture of your all you can eat Chinese, and it does look amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Ricky is in. David says, "How we doing, lads?" James, all we get from Anthony is, "Oh, Gary." I suppose that's not a bad place to start, is it? It was all doom and gloom. Gary Anderson has not played well, and then he rocks up and wins a Pro Tour.
It's just not fair how much talent the man has, is it? Like, we are on show 195, and I think I've said something positive about Gary in 190 of these shows, and I think I've only been on 180 something. Like, that's how much I love that man. He is just blessed with the most ridiculous amount of natural talent. When he's on it, there is arguably no better player to watch, past or present. The only issue you're going to get at the end of Gary's career is how much more could he have had if he took it that a little bit more serious for a couple of years.
Can you imagine
if
he's
that good?
Yeah, I think he's done it in some style as well. You know, we've seen, let's be honest, we've seen Gary win Pro Tour events. We've seen the big boy and they can get through a Pro Tour event and win it. The best players, playing better than their opponent. They don't have to do anything particularly special. They just have to make sure that they're, slightly better than whoever they're matched up against. But, that run certainly after the, from sort of the 32s, top 16 into the quarters and semis, like the darts that he's played, when you look at like the level he's reached, is it's 103, 104, 105, like just really, really high level performances all day. The problem I have at the moment is we do see it, and we see it relatively regular these days on the floor, but for some time now it just hasn't quite translated onto the stage. And I think we won't judge Gary this year based on him winning some Pro Tours, regardless of where they are. Like Gary will always be judged because of how good he is on what he does in the big competitions, what he does on television. That's where his game and his year, how successful a year or a 2-year cycle or whatever has been for him will be based on that rather than this.
Ben, I will style your question and we'll come back to that later on. It's starred, so I don't forget it. No, I get that. That one bit, look, I don't think we've ever thought about it in this way, but Gary has made such a thing about not wanting to play in the Premier League again, not wanting to go and down under and do the World Series. Is part of this makeup of not playing well on TV, not saying deliberately, but subconsciously got something to do with the fact that if he knows that if he goes on and wins 1, 2 or whatever, those questions are going to be constantly asked. Where if he's not winning those events, those questions don't get asked.
Gary's at a point right now where if he doesn't want to do something, he's going to tell you to fuck off. It doesn't matter. The only one that the questions might get difficult for is the Premier League, but things like the World Series and whatever, no. And if he really doesn't want to be in the Premier League, Gary Anderson will not play in the Premier League. The man avoided the Euro Tour, which has been the most lucrative Pro Tour level event of the last decade for 7 years because he threw a strop over an event previously. Like, if he doesn't want to play in the Premier League, he ain't playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think that's the case. But I also think that he's not going to work himself over it either. I think he knows that these questions will be asked, but realistically, it's one of them, isn't it? Gary will always be asked about the Premier League, whether he's in or not. I think because of what he's achieved in the game, even in the years where nobody expects him to be picked, people will ask him who he thinks should be picked because people care about, it's not people care about him as a player, but they also value his, his opinion and he's Gary offers a lot in terms of just entertainment value. He's a good interview. He's a nice bloke. He speaks well. So he's always going to, that conversation's always going to surround him. I thought it was interesting that was just worth noting anyway, that he's hit a round number. It's sort of a nice round number. That's his 30th Players' Championship title.
That's mental.
It was his 30th anniversary of winning Players' Championship events today. It's a good number. It certainly is a good number.
It's mental, isn't it? 30 ranking titles.
Yeah, second in Hildesheim he's been most, if anyone's interested in the really boring facts, he's been most productive in Barnsley. 10 of the 30 have taken place in Barnsley.
In the home of World Darts?
Yeah, and in other places, Coventry and Wigan.
I bet at least 8 of them are on a Saturday as well. Do you remember when it used to fucking 8 Sundays? Win on the Saturday, piss off on the Sunday. Thanks for coming, lads. I'm off first round. A tale as old as time. Gary Anderson wins all day on Saturday, loses first round on Sunday, so he doesn't get fined and fucks off home before they've even started the quarterfinals.
Well, to be fair, it was either win and just pull out and go home or lose first round because he just couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, but I do think it's interesting as well. And we talk about his flaw. Last year was pretty good. He had two wins, a final and 2 semi-finals. So, 5 times he's made the semi-final last year. It's the first time he's got that far this year. He's not made a quarter-final so far this year. on the floor. So it's still very early in the season, but I still think I think Gary is always going to. He's always going to underdeliver what some people will expect of him because he is so good, and it is difficult because he wins an event, and then you look at it and you sort of think, well, yeah, but I won't really be impressed until he's won 2 or 3 events because he's Gary Anderson. Like, I know you've got to win your first one of the year, but traditionally it's not very often he doesn't win something. I still think we need to see more before we can get excited. This
is my favourite comment already, and I'm going to put the other one in as well.
I think that might be true.
Also, a massive shout out to Adam Lipscomb. First year on tour, getting to a final in only event number 7. Played some really good stuff today.
His rise has been nothing short of exceptional, and there might be a tad bit of bias here for me because I've been fortunate enough to see that rise firsthand. He's a genuinely good bloke. I've played him in local competitions, etc. But to go from a player who was called up at short notice a couple of times because of his locality to the Super Series to be now in a Pro Tour final in a season where he was called back to Q School because Pallet didn't go to stage 2. Like, this is a truly ridiculous run. And I don't think Adam would mind me saying that I don't think he expected much from this season. I don't think many around Adam expected much from this season. We've seen far more seasoned professionals over the last couple of years struggle at Pro Tour level. And you see them without tour cards now, Darius Labanuskas, etc. We've talked about Challenge Tour in a bit. And you look at other players that have lost their tour cards of in that, and Adam's in that mold where he's gone in to replace those guys, and you go in, right, well, the standard's never been better. Adam's been fantastic on the ADC events. I think he won a regional title match at one point. He played really well at the Super Series, but never really been to a Champions Week. To go on and make a Pro Tour final in your first 7 appearances on the run that he had playing at the level that he did is nothing short of astounding.
Well, it's more the level side of it because, like you say, we saw a lot of him at the Super Series and he was okay. Right? When he won his card, I wasn't sure because I didn't think he had these levels in him. We haven't seen these levels at the Super Series. Like you say,
we haven't seen them frequently enough. There's been signs of an A game, like you get with most players. I don't think so.
Well, so consistently, we hadn't seen these levels, and to go and do what he's done. Look, he had a great run at the UK Open. Don't get me wrong; he had the biggest cheering squad you've ever seen there. But look, that's the joys of the UK Open.
Right, some from Pompey managing to get there, but we move.
But to see the levels that he's played at has been absolutely incredible. And look, I spoke to him at the UK Open. We were just chatting, and he was like, "No, he goes, I just thought I'd go to Q School, do it. It is what it is. Do the Challenge Tour for a year and so on." Getting a card was never in the thought process to now having to go, "Oh shit, I need time off work. I need to do this. I need to do that." That was never in the plan.
Of everyone that went to Q School and secured a card, he's doing better than every one of them. He's outperformed every one of them. Every one of those new tour card holders from Q School. He sits at the moment on, so far, he's picked up £16,750. Nearest to him of all of those new tour card holders is Cam Crabtree on 12 grand. Like, he's well ahead of everybody else. And again, whilst he might not have planned this, it's so important if you are going to be a full-time tour card holder. I know he's got another job, but if you are going to dedicate yourself to think, right, I want to have this tour card now and I want to keep it, getting that money banked early is so important because he's got just shy of 17 grand, while a good lump of very, very good players that have produced good levels of darts regularly are a mile behind him. We've got some really solid, experienced players who've picked up tour cards who are still floating around on, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, and they are going to be under pressure because they've got 2 years to gather that money. If you can bank money early, like Adam is, then it's going to be so much easier to defend, and he's not going to be under pressure. He'll be able to play a lot freer in those last 6 to 8 months of the tour card cycle. You would like to think.
Yeah, look, it was a really, really good Pro Tour today. Enjoyed it. Remember, we'll be back tomorrow for Players Championship number 8. Fraser, we'll do this one now as it's topical. We were going to save it to the end, but we'll do it. Another ban was announced by the DRA 10 days ago. Now Prakash Jiwa found guilty of all charges, banned for 8.5 years and a record fine. The days of the short ban are now gone. We've seen that from the last two, and rightfully so, that if you are going to be a knob and try and line your pocket illegally, you deserve everything you get.
Well, the rules are clear, aren't they? You know, like I do think it's. We talk to lots of darts players, YouTube more than me, but you know we talk to lots of them. I've never met anyone who isn't clear on the rules. They all understand exactly what the expectation is, and they all understand the punishments that will be dished out and what will happen to you if you don't follow the rules. It's difficult to sympathise. It's very difficult to sympathise. You know, can I understand why somebody might fancy trying to earn an easy few quid? Yeah, I understand that. I understand that people do that. There's people all over the world. People at every corner of this country trying to make a quick few quid on the slide that they won't get into bother for. But you take the chance and you take what comes, don't you? If it all falls down in your face, he's cocked it up. I don't think that it was, as I understand it, it wasn't in any way contentious. He hasn't come out and provided any evidence to the contrary. I haven't seen anything where he's denied the allegations or said this is outrageous. How dare they suggest that my integrity is in any way questionable? I would only suggest the ban is slightly different for Prakash than we've seen with other players, just simply because he's 54. And that has a different effect. Because you are, if you get an 8-year ban and you're 19, 20, 21, that's different in terms of what your future as a dart player might potentially be than if you are 54. But that's just for us to have a chat about. That doesn't mean he shouldn't get the same punishment. It's just, it's going to affect him and his future slightly different than it would perhaps a younger player.
Yeah, 100%. And with that fine as well, let's be fair, he's never going to play again.
What was the fine?
17,500. So,
does he
get a lot of that is legal costs, and I actually think if you add up Leighton Bennett and Billy Warrener's costs, it's very, very similar. I think they've been quite fortunate in that their case was processed at the same time, so they've somehow managed to split some of the costs in what they've been fined.
Possibly, so the panel hasn't had to sit twice, haven't been there twice, and so on. Otherwise,
they'd have been looking at similar when you look at the size of the fine between it. Theirs was 8.7 and 8 point something, and when you add that up, that is 16, 17 grand. So I don't think it's too far off.
I assume it's relatively enforceable. If it's gone down these this route, he won't get away with not paying it. I would have thought, would he? Surely,
I'm just going off of Stephen Lee when he was done for snooker. His ban is now up, but he cannot play because he's not paid the fine. Is that right, Gob?
I believe so. I don't know.
So I know he still owes World Snooker that money.
Oh, I assumed they'd just slap him with a CCJ or something, and they'd be carrying out all of his bits and bobs.
Well, that was when Stephen Lee was able to return to snooker. World Snooker issued a statement pretty quick saying, yes, his ban is up. However, he still owes us this, and that was 12 years ago.
Yeah. What typically tends to happen is you're basically debt suspended from the organisation. In this sense, a DRA, so any DRA regulated event, he won't be allowed to play until he pays that fine. You see it in county a lot, or Super League. If you owe fines or team registration, you can't play or sign on for another county until you're undebt suspended.
Yeah.
There we go. So 2031.
Providing repayment.
I mean, it's not been like. No, I don't know. I assume he's got a job, hasn't he? Like,
it's warehouse operative.
He's probably going to struggle even within 8 years if he's paying it on the standing order every month. And then, like, I'm not, again, without taking a piss, he's 54. Does he pay that? He could spend ages paying that fine off so that he can play darts again when he's 62. Competitive. You know, how competitive is he going to be when he's 62? Having not played competitive darts for 8 years.
Correct.
Unlikely, isn't it? So you probably think, if they're not going to send the bailiffs round, then he'd probably be better served to just get his feet up and not bother with the fine.
Yeah. Greatest Showman. Yeah, look, we do know some stuff about the other one, but they're not really the same. Look, I think that Jack will come out, and not this our Jack Main will come out and tell all in his own time and so on. I think once his suspension's up, he will tell everything because he's still livid. But I think he's just being a little bit careful whilst he's still suspended. So I think there'll be more to come on that one. But yeah, look, for me, totally just and totally deserved in that respect. Now, staying on the Pro Tour, the big boys have all skipped Germany, apart from obviously Michael. But after today, he's probably wishing he had skipped.
That went well for him, didn't it?
Yeah.
He went with the best of intentions, and it's just not quite come off, has it? You got to feel a bit for him in that situation.
Didn't work at all. In relation to what the rules were changed for, the PDC wanting the top players ECT to manage their calendars. Is this the first we're seeing of that, or do you think they've just gone, bollocks, I'm not going to Germany? If this Pro Tour had been in the UK, for instance, do you think they would have played?
I don't know, because it's still a bit of a ball ache for them to get from even the Premier League players to go Nottingham to Pro Tour, no matter where it is, then to Cardiff, then to get out of Cardiff. I think that Cardiff to get to a reasonable airport to get to Göttingen is the one that's causing a bit of a headache, rather than what happens at the start of the week. So they might as well just give themselves a bit of time at home and know that they're going to be exhausted by the back end of the week. Don't overdo it at the start of the week. I still don't think we're truly going to see how damaging these changes are to the overall rankings, etc., until the end of the season or for years to come by. When you look at it, you go, how on earth are they still there? How have they done that? Blah, 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 blah. Like, and by then, it will either be long forgotten about, something else will have come up that we're all annoyed about, or it won't be a big enough deal in 2 years' time to make a fuss about and to get them reversed. I think the system that exists is quite fortunate for that. But there were some stats flying around on social media for the very first Euro Tour, and they weren't pretty. They didn't make for good reading for this new system at all.
It's only going to get worse as well in terms of the statistics. But I suppose they're perhaps relying on people not still banging the drum in 2 years' time as the stats get worse. That by then you've had 2 rounds of new tour card holders join there, all understand what it is. You don't feel as hard done to when you enter a system and it's already like that. Like, you naturally feel harder done to if you're already there and the rules change. But so I do think over time
you've already got new tour card holders making comments going, well, if you want to beat the best, if you want to be up there with the best, you've got to beat the best. That might be the case, and that's fine for you starting out your journey. But actually, the goalposts haven't moved for you. The goalposts have moved for others who have been chasing this for so long, who now have to go even further. And yes, look, it is capable for people to go and win a tournament, but not everybody can win a tournament. Not everybody within the first 10 Pro Tours can physically earn enough money to survive as a full-time career on just earnings alone, because that many people lose in the first round without prize money. It is physically impossible for all of them to go far enough in a tournament to earn enough money that you classify as a living after 8 Pro Tour events.
Yeah, I think as well, it's easier if you are a relatively new tour card holder. Your total income from PDC tournaments, in your lifetime is like 3 or 4 grand. Like you can understand where you feel a very, very long way anyway from the Euro Tour, the European Championships. Whereas obviously we know that there are players there who are big players, big names, have done a lot in the game, and they're right on the cusp, and they're now sitting on the outside having to qualify. And I think they're the players that are obviously going to feel harder done to, because they are the ones where realistically they were expecting to be there.
Yeah. An interesting one, Brendan Dolan not being there. The first time he's not been at a Pro Tour, was it since 2011, I think I saw?
Yeah. That's an impressive run, that, isn't it? It's like there's lads that you get at work there, they haven't had a sick day in 29 years or something like that. It's very impressive.
And you get them a loaf of bread or something to say well done.
Yeah. Very, very impressive.
But yeah, it was interesting that obviously that they say they all skipped, like the Premier League 8. I get it, but even below that, your Johnny Claytons and James Wades and so on all were like, nah, Johnny's chasing that world number 4 spot, and he still gave it a wide berth.
It did, but it's easy. I do think it's easier to do that when everybody around you is doing it as well. Johnny is chasing that world number 4 spot, and as long as Rob Cross isn't there and Stephen Bunting's not there, and Tim, then he gets away with it a little bit, doesn't he? He doesn't. It's if he's gonna have one off, he might as. And if he's thinking, well, if I was to have one off, it'd be that one. And then all of a sudden, everyone around him isn't going. You think, oh well, I'm not going to lose anything. No one's going to. I'm not really missing an opportunity. Yes. He could have picked up a couple of grand and he could have edged himself a little bit closer. But realistically, it's a lot of travel and a lot of hard work for really, if you think about, that extra round he might have got today, he could do that in one game on a TV. The distance he is from third is being in a television tournament and just going one game further than Rob Cross. So I think that's probably what the target should be in terms of that 4th spot.
The other issue is just pure the amount of time to spend in Germany. One, we've spoken about the marker system before. They're clearly better than they have been, but that has always been a bugbear of the players in the past. But 2, where are they? They're in Hildesheim.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Euro Tour this weekend is Göttingen. That's an hour away. If they played the Pro Tours for 2 days, they've got to sit around in Germany for 3 days while everyone else fucks off to play the Premier League and then flies in when they fancy it. I don't blame them at all for then having... Or you fly home to go back to exactly the same spot in 2 days' time. By the time you get home, it's time to go back to exactly the same place again.
I'm not blaming them. I'm just playing devil's advocate with the other side of it. I agree.
It also isn't like... There are far easier. Yes, it's not. Hildesheim isn't a nightmare to get to. It's not challenging, but it is like smack bang in the middle of Bavaria. This isn't like when they do some of the events in Germany, and you actually find they're like very drivable from the Netherlands. You're a couple of hours and you can move across. And depending on how you travel, Hildesheim can be a chew on. It's not a border town. It's not on the west side of Germany. It's like right in the heart of Bavaria.
Yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. But also going back to, obviously, God, this is probably more aimed at you as a player from when you were on the Dev Tour. Say all the big players miss the Dev Tour. When you turn up, do you go, I've got more of a chance, or do you go, I'd rather test myself against the best?
I don't know, I was crap, so it didn't really matter. Bit of both, I guess. part of it depends what level you're at, doesn't it? Like, if you're somebody in the top 10 of a dev tour, then you're licking your lips when the likes of Humphreys and Dimmy weren't there back in the day because they were. I remember one time in Wigan, Dimmy was playing on the Euro Tour. I was like, right, brilliant, we got a chance this weekend. No Dimmy, blah blah. Loses first round, flies in, wins the 2 events the next day.
Brilliant, thanks.
Like, you cannot catch a break at all.
Thanks for coming.
For someone in my position, the point of me being there was to get these opportunities and to play these kind of players and to have those experiences. So if they're not there, then yeah, all right. I still had my fair share of big matches. I played Kurt Parry on my first ever game. Played Jeffrey Desvan at one point. I was on the same board as Martin Schindler, a couple of others. So I've been in and around it. But yeah, when the big boys aren't there and you don't draw one, you don't go, right, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting one. And also, it's interesting that the lower players, but I'm sure they'll see it as a real opportunity because they're like, hang on a minute, in this blind draw that I'm probably going to get a seed, all of a sudden that seed isn't Luke Humphreys, isn't Luke Littler. So for the ones trying to keep their tour cards and new on tour, it's a huge opportunity when especially, 14, 15 players didn't go. That then becomes a huge opportunity for players.
Yeah, it does really open up, doesn't it? And we saw that, if we're honest, we saw that today. That does not look like a standard last 16. If you look at the last 16 today, that is for any Pro Tour event, rogue. That's a proper random list of dart players.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably won't be the worst we get this year either.
Oh, no. You think when most of those top players have got their 20, 25 grand, whatever the cut-off's going to be for Minehead, it will be sparser than sparse. They won't be rocking up.
And and it could get wilder, couldn't it? It could be even more random.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Evening, Jack, hope you are good. Also, look, there was a few late pullouts today, Jim Williams being one of them. Do we think Jim has literally just given up all hope or maybe not even hope, that he generally just doesn't want to be a PDC player anymore? Because he's currently outside the 64 on cut-off. He's not... doesn't seem to be going to anything. Is this the last year we see Jim Williams playing at the elite level?
He's only just outside, isn't he? And you could argue that if he was turning up to stuff at the minute, then he wouldn't be outside.
If he turned up to everything, he's a top 32 player. He's an incredible talent.
And that's what is so confusing. Because he's got such a game in him. Like, such a massive, really impressive game. But we are just not seeing it with anywhere near the regularity. He did play... I just had a quick look as to what he played, in terms of the Players' Championships last year. And if I'm honest, he played more than I thought he did. So last year, he played 25 out of 30. And I wouldn't have guessed it being that much. I would have thought it would have been considerably less than that. He's only played 2 so far this year. And by the end of tomorrow, that'll be 2 out of 8. And those 2, both first round losses. He hasn't won a game of darts this year. And it's the 17th of March.
To be fair, though, which 2 did he play?
Leicester.
Yeah. So he sacked off the Netherlands and he sacked off Germany. Good lad.
Why?
Look at that. No travelling. Stay at home. Netherlands was a shit show anyway. They got the temperatures completely wrong. Yeah, they rectified it, but ball ache, teething issues, and this one pain in the ass to get to.
Has he got... I don't know a great deal about Jim. Has he got...
He's got his own carpentry business, which...
I was going to say, he's got a life away from darts that provides him a comfortable life. Like, he doesn't have to...
I don't know. I don't know if it's comfortable. I don't know his situation. All I know is that he's got his own joinery stroke carpentry business where he's pretty much needed to work all the time.
To run it, yeah.
So I don't know the financials.
No, but I understand if he's running a business like that, and you know that sort of business, a lot of it can be on you're selling yourself and your set of skills rather than a product or somebody else. You know, often people want you, and if he's particularly talented at it, then you know you'd like to think he is all right. But it's just a shame. Like Jim's a very, very, very good player, and he can be incredibly watchable. So it's just it's frustrating as a fan just to not see him regularly and not see the thing, you know, some of the things he can do. Also, Hit Me With Your Best Shot by Pat Benatar is a tremendous walk-on. So not seeing that as often as we should is also quite sad.
Well, also as well, whilst we're on that, look at the players currently are either just on the cusp or outside on that tour card race. Look, I fully appreciate we have 9 months worth of money still to play for. But when you're in that position, we hear players talking about it all the time. They are fully aware going into tournaments how far they're behind, what they are defending. And we've got James Hurrell 62, Don Taylor 63, Dylan Slevin 64. Then just outside, Matt Campbell, Jim Williams, Chris Landman. Then a little bit of a gap, Mario van den Bohada, Andy Bartons, who I've been so disappointed with, Jose de Souza, Reece Griffin, Barry Van Peer, Alex Anansi, Steve Lennon, Lucas Vanek, Rafferty, Denon, Lauby, Yitzi van der Wall, Adam Hunt. There is some big names going to lose cards.
Where do you think, you know, in terms of, so when you look down that list there from sort of Matt Campbell is the first one in white that's not holding. At what point is your current line of they've got no chance? Like, where's the line where you're at the moment where you're happy to say beyond that person they haven't got a chance?
So I'm going to answer this in two ways, and because we don't know what the world's prize money is this year, this is hard to call. Because one, if you were at the Worlds 2 years ago, you're defending a set amount. But if that money goes up from what it was 2 years ago, all of a sudden you're on a gain.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So I don't know what you think, Gob. I know that you look into this as well. I think this is a hard one to call until we know what the world's money is.
But you are right in that you've got players there. So Jose de Souza, for example, like he's right around where you don't want to be. You know, he's 70th position, so he's only 6 spots away. He's still nearly 20 grand away, but he's defending 15 grand at the Worlds. So he's got 15 grand coming off at the World Championships. Now, again, that might give him a chance to, you know, make 20, but he's already 20 grand behind with another 15 grand coming off. You know, Jose de Souza, he's going to be sat on 10 grand if he doesn't add anything to it.
If you're below Danny Lauby, start looking for a new job.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Well, I'll tell you what,
to be fair, I think even that might be a little bit high.
I was going to say,
I think it might be a little bit high, but I do look at him and go, he's explosive enough.
Correct. Yeah, no, he has got. I agree.
I think.
But is Danny Lauby
a make his way to the finals out of nowhere? But I don't think he does it consistently enough. Other than that, I'm really struggling. Anything below that, Willie Borland, we know the calibre of the player that he is and can be, but everybody else make way for the newbies, I think.
Who's the biggest disappointment, you think?
Bartons.
Do you think he is undoubtedly the biggest?
From 2 years ago, he's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I know it's difficult to say because, you know, if some of them, if they do manage to retain their card, then it's not a disappointment, is it? But I think it's some of the younger ones that I didn't expect to be in this fight. You know, I didn't think Owen Bates would be in this fight. I didn't think Nathan Rafferty would be here. There's a few that I didn't expect them to get dragged in. I thought they would establish themselves and sort of, grab that early base like we've seen Adam Lipscomb do and then have something to build on. Whereas, these guys here are very much scratching around because if you look there, we had Danny Lauby as sort of that's where we thought, at the minute everyone below that's a nightmare. I think Adam Lipscomb's only about $8,000 behind Danny Lauby. He's only been at it for 3 months.
Yeah, no, it's one, and you look at the ones above them as well. I look at James Hurrell. He hasn't got to defend. If he gets to the Worlds this year, he'll keep his card because he's not defending anything from 2 years ago at the Worlds.
I think there's a couple of them around that sort of point like that as well, isn't there?
On the other side of that, Gob, looking up, how many in that bracket are now close? Look, maybe not this year, but next year could be their last on tour.
Menshaw.
Oh, looking further up.
Kim, he's in a world of trouble at the moment.
They're the two big names, I think. Everybody else in and around that can go either way. They've still got time. Stephen Burton's doing some half-decent results at the minute. Horrell is solid enough. But, yeah, Mensah and Kim are the two big names I look at going, I don't know where your upturning form is going to come from.
Again, there's a bit of you have to work out, or you can bore yourself by working out who's carrying what from which year and where they've got a lot to lose. So Ian White is a good example. He's slightly higher up on the other two. And I've seen Ian White mentioned a couple of times in the comments, but Ian White only 38% of his ranking money is being defended this year. He had a relatively good year last year and a crap year the year before. So he's not, because his year the year before was so crap, he's not actually defending a great deal. He went out early in the World Championship, so he's only defending 7.5 from that. He's got very little else that he's carrying from the year before last. So I think Ian White can actually drag himself further up through the course of this year. I know he's been identified by a few in the chat room.
To be fair, James has just said it here, and I've just looked. I know at the Worlds he didn't defend $100,000, but Gabriel Clemens is defending £124,000, nearly 59% of all of his money, and again, he is in no form whatsoever.
Strange player. It seems to happen to the German talents, doesn't it? Martin Schindler had a solid peak for a while off the back of Dev Tour competition, dropped off, had to go and get his card back. Max Hopper's back again, but his peak was very good. Dip, not so good. Clemens might be about to experience exactly the same.
Yeah, I'll tell you, just looking that he's defending a lot, and look, he was always a staple on the Euro tours as well. And with that form dipping, it's no guarantee he's going to be at them all, where at his peak, he was in them all, Clemens.
I guess 14 home nation qualifiers a year.
He's carrying that semi-final as well from the Players' Championships, which is 30 grand in one tournament. And 30 grand is an awful lot of money to defend at Minehead. Like, both of those Minehead tournaments, I know the UK Open is completely and utterly random, but the Players' Championships, throws up some rogue results as well. Like, it's a funny old weekend that they always are down there.
Because the seeding's out the window when you get the big boys that haven't gone to half of it, that are
exactly.
one at 31, one at 58, and so on.
That's why, and it can throw up some really rogue results. And by the same token, you can get someone like a Gabe Clemens that makes the semi-finals and doesn't have to do a great deal to do it. But then 2 years later, he finds himself defending a 30 grand lump and could be playing the best player in the world in the opening round. Like, you don't know what, so it's going to be a real tough test, I think, for Gabe Clemens this year.
Right. Off the back of ITV did this, and I don't know if anyone hasn't watched it yet. I really enjoyed watching this, so I thought we'd do our own OD twist on this. The most influential players in the sport. Now, we're not talking about the best or anything like that. We're talking about the players that have had the most influence and impact on the sport. And we're going to see if we can come up with a top 5 between us that we agree on.
The top 5.
And chat room, I want you to get involved in this as well, because it was a really good watch on ITV. It's on their YouTube channel, ITV Sport. I thought it was brilliant, and it's interesting to get our take on it and see if we can agree.
I don't think it'll be too hard to get to. Oh, it might be hard to get to 5 and agree 5. The order's going to be hard work, though. We're not going to agree on the order. That's going to be tough.
Right. So first of all, who's your instant pick? Not number 1, but who do you instantly think of when we say about influence and impact on the sport?
The most influential dart player of all time is Luke Littler. There is, by every single metric you can measure. If you mean because influential, that is affecting things either within the sport or outside the sport, and making things happen, making things different, making people aware of it, changing the sport, changing the way the sport's viewed. I don't think there's any way you could argue it.
Gob?
It's clearly Keith Deller. It's going Twitter feed anyway.
You know what we should have done? Where we've cocked up here is we should have cooked up a plan earlier on to absolutely troll the life out of it. Like, we should have had the roguest, most randomest 5 people ever, and just discussed them and agreed upon them, and just to see the amount of shithousery that would have we could have played and got away with. Yeah, we should have cooked that up. We've asked that up. I do think that it's difficult.
5's difficult to narrow down because I've got a few circle in my mind for different reasons. Obviously, you look at.
Are we talking players, by the way? Just players?
Yeah, just players.
I'm not looking
at the rest of it. I'm looking at. Despite his dominance, and this is a ridiculous thing to say, I'm tempted to not put Phil in there.
I think Phil's in there.
But it seems crazy not to. But actually, if you look who's directly responsible for Phil in some way and making darts stars, you look at Eric, and Eric's responsible for the star power and Phil in some sense. All right, Phil took it to another level, but I put Phil as a knock-on effect from Eric, and therefore Eric is more influential because he brought Phil into the game. And that's only to make room for the others because I'm really struggling to pick. And then you look at who really changed the game back then in terms of the razzmatazz and stuff, and you have to have a conversation about Bobby George. And actually how he did things differently back then. All right, he added the walk-ons and he's got his tits out and all sorts, but actually he didn't play world championships and chase ranking points. He went down a completely different route and made darts accessible to your local player down the pub because you went and watched Bobby George piss around in the corner or something. And then you look at Raymond van Barneveld, who really changed the direction of darts away from the British Darts Organisation. His move was one of the most symbolic you're ever going to see. Other big names moved across that divide. You had the breakaway 16 initially, and then you had others that followed at various points. Stephen Bunting was paid to go across, etc. But Barney's move across really symbolised the PDC's this is us, we're the top dogs now, all the big boys are coming here. And lots followed in that time to come, didn't they? The likes of Mervyn King and as I said, Stephen Bunting and a few others that have gone across, Yella Klassen winning the World Championship, cleared off, etc. Then you look at the modern greats, Fallon Sherrock absolutely transcended the sport in terms of agenda discussion. And now we've got a women's series and you've got Billie Jean King and athletes that probably weren't even aware there was a professional circuit within darts getting involved. And then you look at the Littler effect that we're currently seeing and Is he aided by the era of social media being what it is? Yes, absolutely. Has he still absolutely captured the entire globe? Yes, 100%. And when you look at all of those 5 I've just mentioned, you struggle to get Phil Taylor in there.
Well, someone else said it in the chat room, and Mesa said it, and someone else. I agree that Rod Harrington is in this equation for me, because even though it was more after he finished playing, it started whilst he was still playing. He was the brainchild of the PDC's youth system, because before it was just your tour cards and whatever. So his influence on that as a player and then as a director and so on, I think has to be in this conversation for me, what he's done.
That's why I was asking about. I should have phrased it better when I said we're talking players. I was, are we talking influence as in their playing career? Because Rod was probably the example I was looking at in terms of, if you look at, yes, as a player, he achieved a great deal. Back-to-back match players, and there was, he did things as a player that you can look at and go, "Bloody hell, that was impressive." But in terms of his influence on the game, it's probably come more so after he stopped.
Yeah, and the reason I put him in there, because this started whilst he was still a player. So that's why I'm putting him in there, that without this, we don't get this fruit that we've got now coming through, because the youth then don't go and come across to the PDC Dev Tour. They stay within that WDF BDO system. So for me, I think Rod has to be in this equation for the foresight and going on, hang on a minute, if we don't do something, us oldies are going to shrivel up and die, and there's no then feed it into our system. So for me, I think Rod has to be in the equation.
By the same logic, do you have to look at the JDC founder?
I think there is a conversation to be had, yes. Because again, Steve Brown had the JDC vision when he was still playing. So I think there is a conversation to be had. Whether he makes top 5 or not, I don't know. But I think there is a conversation to be had.
I think it's a very difficult. I don't think Steve would be offended by the fact that it's difficult to put him into the top 5 when you consider the names that are within there. And I just think it's because the CV, or the playing career CV, is just it's so far away from the other players that we're talking about, that I think it will be difficult to include him.
Would he go into an underrated 5? Would you have a Brown and a Rod Harrington and a... This one's definitely a little bit of sarcasm, but I'm trying to think of other players that have done roles around it. Peter Manley, for being head of the PDC, referring people to account.
I can't put Peter Manley in even an underrated one. I can't put him in there.
I don't want to think of others that have done roles.
I know what you mean.
You're right. Is that there's a couple of levels to it, isn't it? In that you've got these influential people, and one of the reasons that they're influential is because if you go into a pub and say their name out loud, all the other people in the pub know who they are. Whereas you could have 5 very, very influential people, and nobody in the pub knows their name, because they've not been box office players, but they've done incredibly good things for the sport of darts and in the sport of darts in the background. And let's be honest, darts is still full of people who work in the background. We know lots of them. They work for the various different companies, whether it be the TV companies or the manufacturing companies, and it's full of people that may be underwhelmed during their playing careers and are now doing other things in darts, and some of them are having a great many. Fair enough, Malachy. Yeah, everybody knows his name in the pub. Well, it depends what pub you're drinking.
If you're in the Goose and Labrador, they haven't got a clue who he is.
There's some pubs that
to be fair, we'll have a go at this as well in a minute. Next one, I see we're going to top 10 most influential people. We might touch on that in a minute, but let's go. So, are we all in agreement that Luke Littler is number 1 in terms of impact?
I just don't think there is a metric you can measure. Other than the only way, it's such a difficult one because you are without a structure by which to sort of assign and attribute points. It's very difficult because I think you either have to focus on, in terms of influencing darts, you've got like these sort of, in my opinion, these two times in history. And I think one of them is now, where darts is bigger than ever before, and it is breaching the mainstream in a way that people never thought it could do. The level of sponsors that are becoming involved, the level of exposure that players at the high level are getting, the advancement of the game around the world, what we're seeing in North America, what we're seeing in Asia, like that, this is now a very special time for darts. And then you move to somewhere like, obviously are replacing time, where we have the breakaway. And I think, the most influential people will come from sort of both of those eras, because that's when the most influence was exerted on darts, and when darts has pivoted, whether it's in a different direction or further out into the world.
All right, let's do our top 5 each then, and then things. So, who would the most impact on the sport? Mace has got Brissy as one. He's certainly in my thing. So, if you're picking number 1, who has had the most impact on the sport? Dan, where are you going? Your number 1.
Number 1, and it may be recency bias. Number 1, I've got Littler.
Gob, who's your number 1?
Peter Sewanee.
You can have him as your number 1 if you want.
The man that needs to putt like a gorilla.
I'm just because of the audience he's put the sport in front of, I'm going Littler 1. Number 2, Dan, on your list.
Eric. I think it's you can make a very solid case for Bristow and Littler and it's just it's what it's a bit like if you judge a boxing match, it's like what you score points for, what do you like, and you could make a very solid case for it either way around, in terms of just the angle at which I'm trying to come from, which helps me then pick my numbers 3, 4, and 5. It's sort of the metric I'm sticking to. It places Bristow in number 2.
Cheers, buddy. Gob, your number 2?
Chengan Liu. That walk-on in front of absolutely nobody is iconic.
We're trying to be serious here, Gob.
I'm being deadly serious. Peter Sewanee 1, Chengan Liu number 2. And the guy that Jerry Hendricks number 3 for flopping on stage like a fish.
I agree. I'm going Eric at 2. He was the first rock and roll star that put darts to the audience, and then the knock-on of creating the monster that is Phil. Eric's my 2. 3, Dan?
I know who the other 3 are. It's just the order. It's going to have to be Phil. Phil Taylor, just for clarity, not any other. not me.
Don't joke. He was my number 5. For a sterling youth career for Hampshire while he's rattling his fucking darts and his flip-flops.
You know.
It's normally me that drinks on the stream. Are you all right?
So, Gob, you're 3?
Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, kills zombies on a mobile phone game in a red hoodie like Mark Walsh.
My 3, I'm going Fallon.
I think that is not. So I'll tell you why, and this is because I have a measure, and what I'm trying to apply is that if you remove this person from darts, how different would darts be, or where would it not get? And I think if you remove Luke Littler from darts, darts isn't where it is now. I think if you remove Eric and Phil from darts, it isn't where it is now. Whilst I think that Fallon did some amazing things, and I'm a big fan, I think if you remove Fallon Sherrock from darts doesn't look too different to how it looks now. I
disagree.
I
think Luke's impact only exists because Fallon came first.
I agree. But from a media point of view, I saw it firsthand. 1 being Ali Pally, and then 2 in the States. The impact that Fallon had was ridiculous. She got darts into a place that no male could.
Maybe.
And the Billie Jean King thing, the New York Times coming down, sending their senior reporters down, and so on. And she got darts on the mainstream telly in terms of we hadn't had dart players on Good Morning before and things like that for many years and so on. I think that the Fallon impact was ridiculous, and it was the first massive wave that we've had. And then Luke's come along and he supersized it once again. So for me, I've got Fallon at 3, and without that Fallon influence, we don't have a women's world match play, we don't have a women's series, and so on within the PDC cycle.
Perhaps.
So I've got Fallon at my 3. 4.
It's hard. It's what do you like? I am going to go back in time, and I am going to go with John Law at number 4, because it rhymes first and foremost, which is nice. But I think that he had a massive I don't think darts exists as we know it without John Law. I think he was very, very important. Very important. And I think he helped darts breach through to the mainstream, and he was there when it was on council telly all the time. He picked the MBE up. He did transcend, and he kept darts moving when it was struggling. And the problem I've got is it's him or MVG. It's him and MVG 4 and 5, and I'm toying with which way around to do it. And who do I think is more important? Well, you could toss a coin on it, really. But I'll stick with John Law number 4 because it rhymes.
Your 4, Gob?
Boris Koltsov, because he's fucking scary. If I don't include him, he'll batter us all.
To be fair, Boris Kirchmar does Boris Koltsov.
So what I'm quite looking forward to, right, is tomorrow when Phil's got his Photoshop hat on and he's trying to make he's trying to make graphics of each of our top 5s. Yours is going to be a fucking hoot, isn't it? He's going to be calling you all sorts of bastards while he's trying to Photoshop that rabble together.
My 4th is Van Barneveld. I just think the influence he had early on in Holland put eyes on the sport there more than any other Dutch player has. So I'm going Barney at 4. Your 5th, Dan.
Michael Van Gerwen. Chief Too Much was very much the face of darts for a period of time where, as in, again, like I talk about, the man on the street knows who he is. You know, the people in the pub know who he is. I think it's a lot to do with very clever branding. You know, the song helps, green helps, turning the lights off, having a distinctive look, being various other things have helped him along the way. But I think that you can't understate how much he has done. When darts didn't have loads of people playing at that level that he would, like it does now. He made it box office. He made it watchable. He allowed darts to transition away from Phil Taylor.
5, Gob?
I was struggling with 5, so I just went on to a random dart player generator, and I shit you not, the first name it pulled out was Keith Deller, so it must be fate, and he's going in my top 5.
Right? Why is that? Why does?
Just search random dart player generator. There's like
That's exactly what I'm doing now.
And the first player that came up for me was Keith Deller, so it's fucking fate.
Right.
Going in.
I've just done it. I've found it, and mine has generated Phil's number 5.
How do you know what my number 5 is?
I wish I could share my screen. It's just generated James Wade.
My number 5, I've gone, and people will, I think they'll be surprised that I haven't got MVG in my top 5. Phil gets my 5th spot.
I'm really sorry, but this is going to cause me to lose hours and hours because what I just
one was Paul Lim as well. I was like, I could sneak him in there. Genuinely
Right.
serious suggestion. 70-year-old made the Lakeside final, but the problem with that is Lakeside's a bit shit.
If you want to really piss yourself, then what you need to do is change the number of the number of players generated to 8. And then have some of the most fascinating potential Premier League lineups in here. So I've got a Premier League lineup in front of me, which is like unbelievable.
This is how I do business now.
So, off the back of what Mace said as well, that we've done the most impact, but who would be then your top 5? Was it most? What was the one they were doing?
Top 10 influential people.
Top 10 most influential people in darts. Now, this isn't players. This is people in the sport.
I feel like this one's a bit simple, isn't it?
I think some of them remain. You know, I think at least 4 of mine are still there.
Get some notes out.
Yeah, I'm going to write mine.
Are these non-dart players?
What?
Are these non-players?
No, just people in darts. If you want to put a player in there, you can do.
Right.
In no particular order, or in order? It's going to be a nightmare to order them. One, 2, 3, 4. How have I managed to do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I've got 7 so far. I'm not in any particular order.
I've got 5 genuine and 2 that think they should be there.
Right. I've got a rough list. I might change. I might have forgotten. So, most influential.
It's different. Oh, man. Right. I've got.
Of all time or right now?
No, of all time.
I've got 10 names written down, but I'm not convinced that I was not going to see a name in the chat room in 10 seconds and think, oh shit, why didn't I have that in?
So my top 3, and these aren't in any order. This is just my first 3. I've gone for Tommy Cox, Barry Hearn, and Ollie Croft.
Yeah, they're my top 3 as well.
Yeah, I've got all 3 of them.
They're
onto my previous list.
Whatever order they're in, but I think they'd be in most, if not everyone's top 3.
I think they'd have to be just based on what they did. I think they'd have to be, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I've got it.
Christ knows what this could be.
Then
I've been so fucking sensible as well. There's not been a Durant, there's not been a Dobie, there's not been I've been dead sensible today, and you've acted a right twat.
No, Warren, look, Sid is on my list, but without Tommy Cox, the PDC / WDC doesn't happen. That's why for me, Tommy is so influential in the sport as we know it. So who would your next 3 be?
Jim Bowen. If you want
Sid Waddell, Ross Gray, Jim Bowen.
If you want a non-player, I would suggest that Jim Bowen has contributed to more people on this planet being exposed to darts than virtually the vast majority of other non-players. It might sound like a comical one, but it's not. If you just apply, if what we're looking at is influence and the fact that he has put darts and presented darts to millions and millions and millions of people, then it might fuck your list up, but I think it's worth a shout.
So who are your other 3? Gob, who are your 3? Jim Bowen, Sid, and Russ.
Yeah.
Dan, who are you going for as your next 3?
Hang on. Right, so I've done Croft, Hearn, and Cox. So, my next 3, I had, because I've included the players as well. So I've then got Littler, Bristow, Taylor.
I've got, in terms of influence, I've gone, my next one, I've gone Sid, Bristow, and Taylor. I agree. So we've got 4 left for our 10s. Just out of interest, look, and this isn't a dig at anyone, but why have people got Wayne so high up? Like, I love Wayne to bits, and has he been influential 100%? But I wouldn't have him in the top 10.
Again, I think it all just depends on what you're using to measure.
Yeah.
And like, to some people, that they'll think of influence and they'll think, well, Just like you hear him. He is to lots of people, Wayne, to the modern fan, the voice of darts. Like to many modern fans who are fairly new to darts, and certainly younger fans, he is the predominant voice that they expect to hear when they turn on Sky Sports. And I don't know whether that's because he's got quite a lot of personality and that he's done some bits outside of, darts, and he's written some books, and he's just a bit more of a.
I love him to bits, and has he had an influence?
I agree. I'm not
100%, but he wouldn't be in my top 10.
In terms of the contributing influence to the sport of darts, I don't think he's there.
No,
I don't think so. I have gone backwards and forwards, and I've ended up with basically the other two from my original players. So I've still got John Law and I've still got MVG, but then I've supplemented that takes me to 8, and then I've added Harrington and Van Barneveld because they were literally sort of sat outside, arguably in my top 5, and there was a case for them being there anyway. So having 10 has allowed me to squeak those in. And again, I know there's lots of people could say, there's lots of people picking a commentator or picking a referee, but I just think if you're going to talk about like how much influence they have had on the game, or bringing people to the sport, people enjoy and have enjoyed for some time Russ Bray. But is it the reason people turn darts on? I don't think so. So I don't think he is influencing people. I think he's influencing the sport as much as anyone on that list of 10 that I've got. It doesn't take anything away from him as a referee.
Who are your final 4, Gob?
So I haven't included any players at any point. For me, we did players a couple of minutes ago. I've gone for who has been influential despite not picking up a dart.
Yeah.
And I got 7 genuine ones. So the last one I got was Dave Clark. It goes a bit downhill after that. It now includes people who think they should be on the list or are on the list for the wrong reasons. Tommy Thompson.
Could have gone anywhere, that. It's still good.
Des Jacklin.
Yes!
Fucking murdered an institution. And according to himself, his family, the sole reason that darts exists in the category it does, and he writes for some absolute dish rag, so Phil Landon makes the list as well. I'll be honest, I didn't initially have Dave Clark in the list. I saw him in the chat room and went, do you know what? Yeah, good shout. Which means Phil Bars was an honorary mention at 11 because, he's made young, ginger, lonely kids believe they can have a career absolutely everywhere, and a fair play to you for that, Phil.
100%. If anyone can, I can.
Yeah.
Dave Clark is a good shout in terms of influence. Again, it very much depends on the what you want to measure. So Chris reminds me that the early days of Sky Sports, Jeff Stelling was there, and there was again, how much of that cross sport. He brought a lot to that presentation early doors. And if you're going to start picking presenters again, it's what you like, isn't it?
That's what I mean. There's no right or wrong to this. It's what you see.
Oh, believe me, there's some fucking wrong. There might not be some right to it, but there's definitely some wrong.
Bob Potter's a shout. But is that just because he's is he just fortunate enough to have owned Lakeside when whoever owns Ali Pally is fortunate in the same regard, sort of thing?
To be fair, I've got Dick Alex on my list at 10. I've also got Rod Harrington on my list. And I've got Steve Brown because of what the JDC has done to what we now know the youth system. Where beforehand, I remember playing as a youth, going to Eastbourne, going to Vauxhall, and the youth were literally just put out in a tent out the side that no one cared about. It was just an afterthought. But now the way the junior game has gone is incredible, giving youngsters a safe platform and so on to go and hone your skills.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it's whether or not that would have happened without Steve. And it is challenging to think that darts would have grown the way that it has to the sport that it is now, and not had someone develop a solid. But then it's it's the chicken and egg situation, isn't it? So without one, does the other happen?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's an interesting one. It really is. And look, none of these are ever gonna. Everyone's gonna have different opinions on this. I think it's a real intriguing one. I genuinely do. So let's go Premier League. Nottingham, just week gone by. I've got to say, I actually enjoyed Nottingham. For once, I thought the atmosphere was decent all night. I've been critical of Nottingham in the past. It's not one of my favourite venues. It's one on my list that could go, but I thought it was a good night.
I thought it was solid. I thought in terms we had a chat on a Fallout bar afterwards about the action throughout the evening. I thought there was very, very good games. Again, I think we are starting to see this year consistently every week in the Premier League very entertaining games. And we're seeing a bit of a combination of we're seeing big averages, but we're also seeing very watchable, entertaining games. I am not bored of Littler against Humphreys. Like, I think at this stage, if you are, you don't like darts.
Give it time.
It remains very, very watchable, I think, the Premier League this year. And I think as well that whilst we can sort of accept that 2 places are done,
I think 3 are done.
I'm not so sure. I'm honestly not so sure. I just think there's more. I think there's more to come, and I think there's enough. There's enough in there for players to hit a good streak, and for other players to hit an absolute nightmare as well. I do think there's more to come in terms of that midfield pack, and some changing of positions. Long way out yet. A long way. We're only a third of the way there, really, aren't we?
But Gezi was the Sherrock of Nottingham at the Motorpoint Arena, and look, he played lovely.
He played superb against Michael van Gerwen in the semi-final. That was an absolute drilling. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, and to be fair, it wasn't as if Michael was playing awful either. Michael was up around that 99 average for a lot of it, and Gezi absolutely pumped him.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think we are seeing some great stuff from Gezi. Like we've seen some very, very good stuff for a couple of nights in the Premier League now. We've had 2 night wins, but I still think when he's not at it, he's not at it. I know Exeter is a rogue one, but we've seen averages in the 80s. We've seen. I don't think he's safe. I don't think he's close to safe on 12 points because I think he could go 4. I think he could get beat in the first round 4 weeks in a row. I just think.
So you look at the table at the minute. Littler's lost first round twice. Humphreys has lost first round twice back to back. Gezi 3 times. Van Gerwen just the 1. Cross twice, Aspinall 3 times. The difference is Gezzy's been able to convert his 2 finals into wins. When he gets there, he's been very, very good. But if he doesn't get there, he's in trouble. And if he's going to blank a couple more times again throughout the season, it gives the likes of Rob Cross, who's playing consistent, steady darts, 3 semi-finals in a row now, to close that gap a bit.
I think as well, he hasn't got. So yes, we don't. We know that Newcastle, night 8 in Newcastle is going to be. We top players bottom, and we sort of concertina the draw, don't we, for that night? Now again, I think that doesn't help him particularly because in the top 2, he's probably got not being in the top 2. That means he's not going to get to play either of the bottom 2. So he's probably going to bump into like a Cross, an Aspinall, or a Michael Van Gerwen. The next 4, like other than that, the other 3 games he's got in the next 4 is he's got opening games against Michael Van Gerwen, Luke Littler, and Luke Humphries. That you could very feasibly say, well, he goes 4 weeks without getting an opening round win, and all of a sudden, that can put him way outside. Way outside. I appreciate he's playing well, but I don't think he's playing well consistently enough. I don't think he's doing it anywhere near with the regularity he needs.
Not consistently enough for me to go, yeah, he's a nailed uncertainty to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now. Gezzy makes the top 4. Calling it now.
I shall inform my bookmaker.
Right, so we are going to the Welsh capital, Cardiff, this week.
Ooh.
The games are as
We
follows.
should speak to Carwyn and get some Welsh language content out this week for the Premier League.
Game 1 is huge for both players. Chris Dobie against Stephen Bunting. The question is, will Chris Dobie have sobered up by then? That's more of the question. Game number 2, Luke Humphries against Michael Van Gerwen. Game 3, Littler against Aspinall. And game 4, Price against Cross. So, game 1, must win for both players. This game. Bunting is still pointless. Chris Dobie has not pointed since night 1. Are we saying the loser of this game is done?
Yes.
No, because Dan will cry.
You said the loser of this game.
Yeah, exactly. Stephen Bunting exacts revenge on behalf of the entire population of Liverpool and smashes your boy 6-0. Get over it.
Stephen Bunting wins 2 legs, and Chris Dobie will win 6. Carry on the form. He's taking it. He's going to have Dan Brown. He's going to have Dan Burn walk him out to the ring, walk him out to the stage. He's going to bring him out. Big Dan Burn's going with him.
I think Bunting wins 6-4. Humphries against MVG.
6-2, Luke.
What he said.
No fucking mercy. You want to play silly buggers in Germany and get beat first round by Nico Springer, you're going to get smashed up in Cardiff, lad.
Just to be different, I'll give him an extra leg. 6-3.
I was going 6-3 as well. To Luke.
Solid. You know what's happening there?
MVG then.
I was going to say, you know where to put your 50 pence on that one?
Yeah.
The 3 of us have weighed in on it.
Littler Aspinall.
6.
Anthony, you're still there because this time last week, Luke said we were idiots. So this week, Littler wins 6-1.
I will also go 1 more leg than him this time, 6-2.
I'm going Littler, but I'm going 6-3.
Again, folks in the chat room are building up a little lacquer now, aren't they? Based on how
Yeah, so everyone's now back in MVG and Aspinall double.
Yeah, I tell you what, you get some value for it. You'll get some value. Let me tell you, there is no value on putting a bet on Luke Littler ever. It's a joke. Bookmakers are terrified of him.
Gerwin Price against Rob Cross.
The Welsh go home crying at the hands of the mighty English for the second time in 5 days as Rob Cross thumps him 6-5. A little bit closer than the rugby. Only just.
I think Rob Cross wins as well, which is weird because I've agreed with you on all 4 now. And we've agreed on very little this week.
Not my fault you don't appreciate the culture and heritage that fucking Keith Deller brings to this sport.
Oh, God.
Oh, I get you. Yeah, the Belgian trophy was naff.
I'm going a Welsh win. I'm going for Gerwin Price to beat Rob Cross. And also, if you want to back the Michael Van Gerwen, Nathan Aspinall double, it pays a cool 11.5 to 1.
And you know what that means, don't you? It means if you put £10 on that bet, you will lose £10. That's how gambling works, folks.
From your selections, who wins and against who?
Keep picking him and he keeps letting me down. But he will take some momentum away from upsetting the Welsh and then going against the crowd favourite. So Rob Cross will beat Luke Humphries in the final.
We disagree, Dan.
I thought that might be the point at which we diverged.
Only on the result of the final because I have those two there as well.
Whoa.
Humphries wins 6-4.
Well. Well.
I have Luke Humphries getting to the final. But from the bottom, the question is, does Littler break the streak or does Gezi go 7-0 in his last? So I'm going for a Luke Humphries, and I just think the crowd, if it's Gezi against Luke, are going to be arguably the worst we've ever seen.
Do you not think that there are two players better equipped to deal with it though than those two? Like I think if there's two players who can deal with that, then that's probably the two.
The crowd get Gezi through to face Luke Humphries, but unfortunately the night doesn't end well. Luke Humphries beats Gerwin Price. I think. We'll see. Also, obviously, the week just gone, Darius Labanuskas has overtaken Beau at the top of the Challenge Tour. Beau decided to skip both Challenge Tour and Pro Tour. Were you surprised, either of you?
Sorry, I just read that comment in there.
What? That one?
Yeah. Just give me a chuckle. Can you imagine that? And then we get to 21 years. Only reason Gezi keeps playing, he comes out and plays one game a year. He just plays one. He comes out once a year and plays an exhibition against Luke Littler and beats him every year.
Were we surprised that Beau skipped Challenge Tour and Pro Tour, or did you think she might have done one or the other?
I'm not. I try to not be surprised by anything in terms of the choices that she makes of what to play and what not. I don't think it's a great idea. Like I don't think it's a good idea to skip them, but it doesn't surprise me that she has. But I think she should have played at least one of them. But what do I know?
Were you surprised at all, Gob?
No, never. Like, I think the problem is that they were back-to-back in Germany. If they're back-to-back in the UK, or there's a couple of days in between, then I think she might have played. But I think the fact they're back-to-back, and she would have expected to play it all, 5 challenge tours backed up by 2 pro tours over 4 or 5 days. I just don't think she wants that level right now, that level of commitment and testing in terms of endurance. And you can't really go, well, I'm just going to go for the pro tour and not the challenge tour, because then you go, well, why haven't you gone to the challenge tour to play 1 event or 2 events to keep your ranking ticking over nicely so you're not caught and then your first choice again? Like, I just think it was a bit of a headache when you look at it over the 4 days or 5 days or 5 challenge tour events, 2 pro tour events of action. I'm not surprised. Plus, like I said, travel to Germany.
Well, she didn't play any of the Dev Tour events last year that took place in Germany. So
She played the women's series in Germany.
Don't know.
Yeah, she did the women's series.
Yeah.
Don't know. But it doesn't. But you know, the pattern is there that, you know, unless she really needs to, or unless it really means something for her, she don't fancy the trip. I quite like Germany. It's a good trip. Nice place.
Darius now sat on £8,200. Is Lucky D got one hand on his tour card back?
No.
I don't think he's going to be able to sustain it over the course of a year. I think there's too much talent in that.
With that, I agree there is talent, but are they going to take all the money off each other and stop each other bridging that gap?
No. I think we're still way too out, aren't we? Like Beau's not a million miles behind.
That's the difficult bit, because he is a lump ahead. And then you look at the big names, not so much, maybe not big names, but, you know, players that you know have got a proper game in them. You know, Andreas Harrison, Graham Usher, John Henderson, Tom Sykes. Like there's a batch of players there around that sort of 12 to 16, and you know that they've all got a massive game in them. And at the minute, it looks like a very, very long way away. But Darius has done well in 3 events out of 10. That's it.
Yeah.
In 7 of those events, he was crap. And then you think, well, how many of those players could have 3 good events? Well, a lot of them, really. A lot of them. I would be very, very shocked to see Darius Labanuskas in the top 2 come the end of the year. Very shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked. I just think that, I'm not saying he'll go and win events, but I think he'll just pick up money. And my concern is that everyone else beats everyone else. That Everts might win one, then King might win one, Usher could win one, Henderson could win one. They're spread around and they're not cutting the gap enough each time.
Possibly, but I also think those players are, despite what Darius has done this weekend, better equipped to do that kind of weekend again. And immediately they're there or thereabouts. Beau Greaves is not a million miles away. Stefan Belmont is playing incredibly consistently right now. You look at the way Andreas Harrison finished last year's Challenge Tour season by going on a bit of a rampage. He started poorly, narrowly missed out on one of those 2 spots, didn't he? Like, these players have it in them, and Harrison and the like have been there and done it before. Mervyn King is arguably playing the best darts of anybody on that Challenge Tour. His level, when he keeps getting called up to the Pro Tour, has been nothing short of exceptional.
Oh, he was brilliant today.
Yeah. And he's still got, 15, 20 Challenge Tour events to go this year?
And he needs to play in everything. Fucking hell. Even if he can just go there and hang out because the eating's on and there's hot water and stuff, and like he just needs to fucking play every single darts event there is. Oh dear me. Yeah. I can tell the piss. I'm paying fucking 50%. I'm propping up this country's tax system, mate.
One thing we spoke about last week was the introduction of the ADC youth vaults. Now, was it Friday, the counter announcement, shall we say?
Interesting one, that one.
Of
Especially the verbiage on it.
JDC vaults. Now, we were hoping that people would play nicely and get along, but it doesn't look that way.
Well, I hope that someone had gone like the ultimate shithouse route of using the alternative spelling of vault, because there's a few ways you can spell vault. And I thought that is extra if you do, if you do it in that way. It confuses me. I'm really confused as to why somebody would. If you believe in what you're doing, you think it's a good thing. You sell anything or promote something, and you think it is a good product. You don't want people to get confused with your competition, right? That's why this is called online darts, and it's not called a slight derivation of another channel. You want to be your own
10 minutes later than live darts.
Yeah, live darts. We could do something like that. It's live darts UK brackets or something like It's if you believe in what you are producing, then surely you should want it to have its own identity. Why would you want to take the fact that someone else runs this thing called the Vault and create the Vault? I'm really confused by that thinking. It's like someone using the Live Lounge term for something else, isn't it? No one would ever do that. That'd be completely wild. But I just think, if you create something and you really believe in it, then why would you want it to be confused? You wouldn't want people to mistake it, would you? You wouldn't want people thinking that shit competition was you. You want to be identifiable as yourself, your organization, your product, whatever that is. I find it very confusing. I think it's an odd move. Look, like I said, and I keep reiterating, there are places in which people can compete with each other to earn money or to promote a product or to sell fucking tickets to darts or something like that. I do not think the youth game is the place for it. That is not the space to be fucking about, like trying to score points on each other as grown men. I think it's silly and nobody benefits from the fuckery.
No, I agree. I was kind of hoping that maybe it was a collab thing to start with, but seems not. I fully get adult organisations not getting on.
Well, they're in competition, aren't they? They're all trying to sell each other tickets or sell tickets to they're pitching for the same people. Yeah,
but the kids side of it, I'm like, is it necessary?
Well, I just think if somebody has gone into youth darts or anything that involves like structuring something for kids and they've gone in exclusively to turn a profit, I think you're probably making a mistake, because generally they don't. It is incredibly rare that anything that involving the youth game, there's not enough money in it. No sponsors, there just isn't enough money going to come to it. But I think once you start fucking dicking about trying to compete with each other and outdo each other, then it's just it's not what I want to see, really, in that space. I would rather that people did positive things for youth sport because they want to contribute to the future of the sport. I understand it has to make money. Otherwise, you can't do it, because you can't dedicate your time to something and then not be able to pay your mortgage at the end of the month. But I would much prefer it was done in a way where people could work collaboratively together, or they could do their own thing without trying to shit on everybody else at the same time.
Super Series God, Derek Coulson produced a masterclass at the weekend.
Just, yeah, exceptional darts. Third straight Champions Week he's into now. Ran at a 94 for the week. Only the second player to ever not just run a card, but run the entire week behind Beau. Admittedly, both from Group B, which is the shortest campaign you can possibly do, but 8 wins from 8 in a Friday night group that included the likes of John Worsley, Conan Whitehead, who are serial qualifiers for Saturday nights. Martin Turner and Kevin Edwards in there as well, not to be sniffed at all. Played really solid on the Saturday as well. Beat Charlie Manby. Was probably the biggest threat. He beat him in the group and then took out Neil Duff in the semis and won the final. And yeah, 94 average straight into Champions Week Group A because he's 3 points ahead of anybody else, at least in terms of running average. And when you add third straight Champions Week, admittedly not third straight weekly win, he lost to Jim Long in the final in his last one, but third straight Champions Week in that environment, World Championship Seniors semi-finalist, first time ever in front of those cameras and that environment. And I say this lightly, accidentally qualifying for the UK Open. He went to that qualifier in a PDC environment as well, not in a outside one of the 4 care in the community places that offered spots to 1 in 12 people. These were full-on events that he went to and went, well, I need a bit of match practice for the tavern, and inadvertently qualified for the UK Open. Lost to Darius Labanuskas in the first round, who beat him in the semi-finals on the Saturday night of Champions Week finals night last time out. When you look at the level that he is playing at right now, the difficulty is going to be comparing it to players on the Challenge Tour who are doing this regularly week in, week out. But he is right up there in terms of the conversation of best player in the world without a tour card right now. He is that solid, that consistent. His A game is unbelievable. He played, was it Friday night? At one point, he'd started 6 of 7 legs with a 180.
He is in that mode as well, where he only gets beat by very good players playing at their very, he only gets beat by very good players who are playing very well. He doesn't let anyone get one on him. Like if you are going to beat him, you have to turn up and take it from him. And yes, there are players, on the circuit that can, because there are some very, very good players, and they'll all take a bash off each other, every now and again. But at the minute, unless you are on your game and one of the best players around, you ain't getting past it.
Yeah, I genuinely think he's that good right now. Like, his level is solid. He's comfortable enough. I've seen him have double trouble in one of those campaigns where he's qualified anyway, where he couldn't hit tops and 10s for anything. By the end of the week, he swapped a double 16. He's got himself through to another Champions Week on a backup double because his MO wasn't working. He's changed darts recently to barrels that are a lot thinner, so there's more room in the treble bed as if he needed it. He was hitting ton 40, ton 80 for fun with some of the chunkiest, fat-ass barrels you've ever seen in your life. He's got 2 sets of these new darts that he's incredibly comfortable with. He's been throwing them since before Christmas, but didn't want to risk the tavern and or the UK Open with new equipment. But now he's in a position where he's ready to compete with these, and I genuinely think he's right up there. He's a serious contender for this Champions Week title, knowing that he's been there and done it twice before. Knocked out in the group stages the first time, led Van Velzen 3-1 in that opening game on the group night, who then went on to win that Champions Week, lost to Steve West in that second group, got through the group last time, as I said, lost to Labanuskas in the semi-final. And look, Darius went and did great things on the Challenge Tour this weekend. There's a little bit of rivalry there now. It's 2-0 in Darius's favour in that regard in big games. Darius is the defending champion, and Derek sat there waiting for him, and Darius is still yet to come in this series. If he books his spot there, we could have a little bit of a trilogy.
The one thing I will offer, he does, if he's going to do anything at the higher levels of this sport and on television, is he needs, and I mean urgently needs, a new walk-on song, because that's fucking horrible. Like, I am happy to indulge someone's, Clubland happy hardcore or interests, but there is no place in darts for Scooter, and there is in fact there's no place outside of darts for Scooter in my opinion. It needs to be taken. I know Derek tunes in and watches sometimes. Derek, I will find you. Like I'm happy to take it on as a project. I'm happy to draw you up a short list. I can give you some stuff to do. I can only assume at some point he's lost a bet. Like he's lost a bet, and someone said like, okay, that's you're gonna have to come out to that now. That's your punishment. I know I've met Derek and had some really good conversations with him, and I cannot even picture in my head how he's come to that song.
He's quite laid back, isn't he? Like,
yeah, it just doesn't strike me as something that he would jump in the car and pop on. Like, it seems so far from what.
It's not like Dirk, who walks around with headphones on that loud that you can actively hear what he's listening to, and on his way around the venue goes boom, 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 like just stroll. Like that is Dirk.
It needs to be. It needs to be stopped, and it needs to happen quickly.
What Scooter song is it they're asking?
It's that
Jumping All Over the World.
The worst one. Yeah, that one, Jumping All Over the World. Yeah, the worst one. It's not even. Well, I was about to say one of their good ones, but like it's
It's not
the
even a
logical song, is it? Which is a belter, like.
It is not a good song. Not a good song.
Oh, no, that was good. Before we go into question time, so get your questions in ready. Gob's got some news.
I do. This is show number 195 since we started this project. When we do show 200, all three of us will be together. We've already got it planned. We're going to be in the studio. We're going to do a nice little show together. But it will be my last as a regular contributor on this show. I've absolutely loved the last couple of years, 4 and a bit years now. And that's not to say you guys are never, ever going to see me again. I'll dip in here and there when it suits with a schedule, etc. But I need a bit of a break now. I need some time to focus on a couple of other things. I'm incredibly busy with the Super Series. Things like the Circus Tavern went incredibly well for me. I'm trying to lose a bit of weight, and some of the exercise stuff I want to do takes place on a Monday night, etc. So, it's not to say that I'm never, ever going to be sat here again on a Monday night. But for the foreseeable, I won't be a regular on this show. It won't be me week in, week out.
And he's not going anywhere either, because we have got a dartboard set up here where he is going to do some filming on some dart stuff and everything like that. So unlike others that have gone, like Lee, just didn't have time to do anything, he's not going anywhere. You'll still see him, I'm sure, on World Championship fallouts as well, because there's no other darts on when the Worlds are on and so on. So look, he's not going, he's not leaving the channel or anything like that. It's not a fallout or anything like that. He will still be involved with stuff regularly. Is the thing, but just on a Monday night. Look, and I get it. Look, 4.5 years is a long time.
Very long time. Yeah, like it's just time for a bit of normality for a few months, and we'll just see how it goes.
I'll lay money, everyone. After a few months, he misses it. I'll lay money on it. Because
I said I won't miss it, but like I said, now I just need to.
I'm winding you up.
For a few weeks, and like I said, we haven't fallen out at all. We still love the boys. It was going to be in person for that last show. I could have fucked off tomorrow if I really wanted to, but like I said, we're still good pals. We've rebooked for the UK Open next year. I'm not sure Dan's told the partners yet, so I probably dropped us in it quite early in the year this time again. But
I'm safe.
It is what it is.
It was. I've had to do too many reveals. There's a lot going on this year. Like I'm going here. I'm going on this flight this weekend. I've got Cam Stagg doing hamburgers. I'm just, I'm in 2-footed at the minute.
And I will record myself saying bye, Anthony, and it can be played out at the start of every end video.
And the other one as well is that he's still down to do the lives with us as well, and and in person and stuff like that. He'll still be on the Live Lounge lives and so on and everything like that. And like I say, you're not gonna. He's not disappearing. He's still going to be involved in the channel. A couple of people asking that we've got a couple of ideas.
We're working on it.
It will still be 3, because I think 3 is a good one to bounce off for this and so on. So look, we're working on it, but we will be in this very studio in a little over a month's time to bring you show. To be fair, when we first started this, who ever thought we'd even get to 200? That's mad.
It is mad.
I was only watching
the very first one a few weeks ago, and I'm sat in my mum's bedroom in lockdown. Like, the purple background is hideous. Lighting's abysmal. We're just on laptops folded out. Camera quality's shocking. Internet's even worse. I mean, not much has changed from my end, but the other two look pretty decent these days. Background's all right, etc. So,
to be fair, we've come a long way. But like we say, he's not going anywhere, so don't worry about that. It's just on a Monday night. It'll still be.
Oh, I'm not sure I'd be comfortable moving up into the top right. I'm not sure I like that idea. I quite like being in the bottom on my own. I don't think I want to be up there. Ooh.
We'll swap next week and see how you feel. Because, like I said, look, I'm going to be here for every show between now and show 200 as well. That's my commitment to the boys to finish strong. But yeah, so this is show 195. We've got 196, 97, 98.
It's not going to be like Take That either. He's not all of a sudden going to go all Robbie Williams and start doing his own thing on a Monday night. Like, he's not going to run up against us or anything. It might be that we all, occasionally get back together and do a tour.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it'll be funny. And plus, look, when you do start to referee on TV, and you won't mind me saying this, you've got to watch what you say a little bit.
Yeah, that is like I often say, like, I'm able to speak on this show with pretty much ultimate freedom. Like, I don't rely on this. So if it all finished tomorrow and someone went, that was an appalling thing to say, you could never go back on there again, I would genuinely think that was fun. I enjoyed it while it lasted. I can't believe I got away with it for that long. And I can imagine it being very different if you have to then do a different job where the expectations are different in the way that you approach the game and view the game and how public you can or can't make some of your views. So there is that side of it as well to consider for poor Gob. We don't get his unfiltered free speech.
Yeah.
He calls Keith Deller a muppet, and then he's got a referee in.
Yeah. I mean,
if he's got to go to a qualifier first.
He's not getting invited anywhere,
that will never change. I promise you, I will never not call out Keith Deller.
To be fair, Ben asked this earlier, and I said I'd think, what has been your favourite World Championship final ever?
Oh, that is a tough one.
Oh.
I'm not sure it was a favourite, but the one I vividly remember, and it was not tough, it was weird. Because I was stuck between two things. Because from about August that year, I was absolutely dead certain on who was going to win the World Championship. And they were in the final. But the other one was, will it ever happen again? And it was Gary versus Phil. You had the drama of all 3 darts falling on the floor with Gary. I'd been on Gary winning the World Championship since the middle of the summer. I'd nailed my colours to the mast for a long, long time. He absolutely cruised it, blah, blah. And then he's playing Phil Taylor in the final. You're like, this might never happen again. And I was a bit torn between wanting Gary and being right and just how fantastic a player. And look, it's quite evident from, you don't need 195 shows of us to realise how much we love Gary Anderson on this show. But yeah, it was that difficulty between Taylor potentially never doing it again and then Gary getting over the line.
Yeah, like I say, most people will go to the Taylor-Barney final. That's arguably the greatest. But my favourite...
2019.
That's up there.
It's not up there. It's the best one.
I also enjoyed Gary versus Phil as well. But yeah, I think MVG's third's my favourite. I'm not saying the best, I just think my favourite. Worst final? Oh, Christ. There's been a few stinkers, isn't there?
You have got me. When I said 2019, you've got the right one, haven't you? I haven't said 2019 and you've thought MVG Michael Smith.
The one where MVG went berserk.
Yeah, I was thinking 2019 Glenn Durrant beat Scott Waits.
Oh, sorry.
I thought I'd have to labour that one. It wasn't quite sinking. It wasn't quite landing.
Yeah, wasn't quite with it at that point.
It hasn't landed. It was Glenn's third. That's.
To be fair, 2017 MVG Gary's a shout as well.
That is a shout.
That was Gary's third final in a row as well.
Mm.
I mean,
2015 Lakeside wasn't terrible.
Mitchell?
Yeah, 7-6. I was at Super League on that one. We were miles away and we refused to leave until it was over because it just went on and on and on.
To be fair, there's been some stinkers. Was it 2002 where Taylor drilled Manly 7-0?
Yeah, that was an awful final. That.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. 2003 is that in terms of a watchable final, like John Park beating Phil Taylor 7-6. Both playing very well. It was like, what more could you want? Like, you couldn't argue it wasn't entertaining.
Price Anderson, I'm not going to cane that because it was a world final with no one watching.
Yeah, I can't have that.
So I can't really cane that because that's difficult for the players.
What have we got? Peter Wright Michael Smith was a great final.
Eddie's first one was very, very good. Eddie's first one was a great watch against Gary.
Yeah. To be fair, Gary 80 2016 was decent as well.
Yeah, didn't Anderson take out 170 from nowhere?
Mm-hmm. Taylor Painter wasn't dreadful, was it?
To be fair, Lewis's second world final wasn't a great watch. Yeah, I agree with that one. Yeah, it's an interesting. But I think that's a good way to leave tonight's show on that World Championship one. It was good. Any news on TV deals for who, Brad?
I haven't been recruited to one yet.
No. Peter Wright was good today, and he went back to the gold elements. Shock, and they worked.
Shock.
He was solid.
And then disappear again.
Yeah. ITV. Not that I've heard anything. Look, it runs till November. I'm sure.
We haven't done a prediction for tomorrow, Phil. We need to do that before we go, don't we?
All right, who's winning tomorrow? Tomorrow, winning the Players' Championship will be Jan van Veen.
Oh.
Wrong Dutchman.
You got Nyman.
Duck.
You bugger.
Well today as
That's
well.
exactly what I was going for. I was hoping you'd go for another one so that I could then say wrong Dutchman. And I was hoping we could get a little circle going. That's exactly what I was about to say, but I ain't going to back yet. And because it's with 120 players, we can't pick the same, can we? Which is why I will select for tomorrow's winner. It will be. Oh, sorry, the rest of them aren't there. Peter Wright.
Oh, he's gone bold. He's gone brave.
Yeah, Peter Wright plays tomorrow very well and wins.
Everyone, that is episode 195. in the can. Remember, this will be available as an audio only in the morning, so make sure you check out that. The Pro Tour stream returns tomorrow from 11:55. Dan and the gang will be back on Thursday for the Fallout Bar. I'm not sure who's on, but Dan sorts that all out. It'll be Dan and the gang of some combination. And then we return for the Euro Tour streams on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Also, in the meantime as well, we have interviews dropping with Johnny Clayton, Luke Woodhouse, Simon Whitlock, and who else was there?
Daryl
Gurney. I couldn't remember who else was there. All saying some good bits. So plenty coming your way here at Online Darts. If you haven't yet, make sure you like and subscribe, because we have you covered every stretch of the way. But for now, I've been Phil Bars, Jack Garwin, and Dan Simpson. We are signing out, and we'll see you all very, very soon.